We're almost at the All-Star break, so let's take stock of the New Orleans Pelicans. Where do they excel? Where do they need to improve over the final stretch of the regular season? It's a post-Mardi Gras, a Wednesday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans at NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all on this Wednesday, day after Mardi Gras Day here. I hope you had a fun carnival season, ate a lot of king cake, and are recovering today. But it's Valentine's Day and the Pelicans play, so it's a game day for your New Orleans Pelicans here in the Crescent City as they take on the Washington Wizards. They're likely to win that game, so we're not going to focus on that one too much. And instead, I want to take stock of kind of where this team is right now. Is this a good team, a bad team? Are they reaching their ceiling? Are they not? What are they great at? Where do they need to improve? And how that's going to influence this offseason and actually the rest of what we see this year here. So we're going to break it all down in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So let's dive into it here. Become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. That's the other thing I needed to say here. So let's get into some of this here. I want to start with this. This is something I've been saying because, if you are part of like Pelicans Twitter or Pelicans social media, in the different areas here, you can see a lot of like kind of hysteria after losses. And I don't think that's like the majority of people. So I'm not calling people out. I'm not trying to make this a thing. It's just sometimes I think there's some overreactions there. And so I want to kind of speak to that a little bit because look, this team is good. I even see it on the YouTube comments and things like that after losses, even after that win over struggle of a win, right? Struggle of a win over Memphis. But even then, it's a win. That's the important thing, right? This team is still good. Right now at 32-22 when I'm recording this, that's 10 wins over 500. They're on pace for 48-49 wins this season. It's actually like 48.6. So let's go 48-49 win pace this year. If you look at it in terms of 48 wins, that's only happened 3 times in franchise history. There have only been 3 seasons with 48 or more wins in the history of like New Orleans basketball. That's saying something here. Now, they might not reach that pace. They could even get ahead of it, right? They're winning about 59-60% of their games right now. So this is very possible that they can kind of keep moving forward and kind of being a top 4 season, let's call it, in franchise history. And that's before you get into the playoffs to see maybe what damage they could do there. Think about that for a moment. Right? When you're looking at it in the context of just this franchise, which is not only what we want to do, we want to look at it in the context of the league as a whole right now. This is a really good season. That doesn't mean you should be just only satisfied with that. Doesn't mean that if, they get bounced out or swept in the first round, you just go, okay, whatever, it was a top 4 year. No, that's not true. But this team is doing something in their winning games, and I don't want that to be forgotten here. They have the 13th best offense, the 7th best defense, and for the most part, when this is maybe the most incredible thing and is leading to this, right? They've been healthy for the most part this season. They're doing some load management with Zion Williamson, with Brandon Ingram, and it's worked. CJ missed a number of games with a punctured collapsed lung, whatever you're calling it, and now Dyson Daniels is out injured. But overall, and Trey Murphy wasn't healthy to start the year, overall, this team has been healthy, and it's leading to some really good things for the team. When you look at it, they actually have the 9th best net rating. So one of the things we look at if you're new to the show, I use some of the advanced statistics, analytics, whatever you want to call them. Net rating is one that I like. I like offensive rating and defensive rating versus points scored and points allowed. Because if you play with a faster pace, right? If you get pace is essentially the measurement of the number of offensive possessions you get per game. More offensive possessions means more chances to score, likely meaning that you're going to have, if you're at least decent, a higher points per game than a team with a slower pace. fewer possessions, fewer chances to score. But that doesn't mean that that slower offense is worse, right? And if you look at an NBA game, teams share the same pace. If you get an offensive possession, your opponent gets an offensive possession. So net rating is just your offensive rating minus your defensive rating, right? That's what that number is. The number to really, truly be considered a title contender is 6. 6 or better, positive 6 or better, and that kind of puts you in the running with that. The Pelicans right now have the 9th best net rating at positive 3.8. That's pretty good overall. They're not necessarily in championship contention, but they're not horrifically far from that either. And the way I want you to think about this is, does this team look great to you, right? Like, does this team scream like they're playing their best basketball and this is who they are? You know, you look at some teams in the league, and I think when you look at that, you're like, yeah, that's exactly who they are. Minnesota, 37-16, right? They're 21 games above 500, is exactly that team. They don't have another gear to get even better. They're good now, don't get me wrong, but they can't necessarily improve. Right? You look at Sacramento at 30-22. Do they really have room to improve? I don't think so. Some other teams might. Golden State's getting better. Lakers getting better a little bit, but not necessarily. You also have Dallas, who's improving, Phoenix, who's improving. But some of these other teams don't. The Lakers don't. They are who they are. I shouldn't have said that. So I think when you look at that, it gives you optimism that this team can improve, that they can get better, right? And we'll talk about ways they can do that in the next segment here with some of the areas that I think that are holding them back. And we're going to look at the starters in the next bit here because I really want to kind of dive into some of that because they haven't been great. And if you figure the starters out, which maybe you can do, maybe you can't, this team has so much more potential. Again, they're winning games at like a 59% rate. What if that jumps to like 65%, something like that? That pushes you into 50-win territory if this team just figures a couple of things out, if, not necessarily when. You're seeing growth from Herb Jones, right? CJ McCollum has been amazing this year with everything that he's done and the consistency that he's had for this team. So this team is good. They're not amazing. They're not a title contender, in my opinion. They have a lot of room to grow still. It's just a matter of, will they hit that point or not? We're going to find out after this game. It'll be 27 games left to go post All-Star break, assuming they win this one against the Washington Wizards tonight, and they should because that team is bad. So coming up next, again, let's keep that in mind that this team is good. Let's look at the starters because their numbers are odd to say the least, and we have a large enough sample size to kind of judge this. So I'll tell you what the starters net rating is. It's not what you think. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about Hungry Root. Hungry Root is great if you're on a specific diet, if you're just looking to save time. It's one of those services that's going to help you save money, reduce food waste, and we've got a discount code for you. Hungry Root is your partner in healthy living. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality groceries and simple, healthy recipes delivered to your door. You take a fun, short quiz, and a Hungry Root will get to know your personal health goals, what you like to eat, the kitchen appliances you use, and more. Then they're going to build a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week and give you delicious recipe recommendations to put those groceries to good use. Hungry Root will recommend recipes and groceries based on your personal taste, but each order is fully customizable. Take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high quality meat and seafood, pantry staples, healthy snacks, sweets, ready to eat meals, and so much more. It's going to save you time than doing all that work yourself when Hungry Root is here for you. Imagine if you had a couple more hours per week that's not spent on meal planning and grocery shopping. So everything from Hungry Root follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole trusted ingredients. Save hours planning, shopping, and cooking. Hungry Root delivers food you'll love. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On Pelicans listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedon to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/lockedon. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. We are available Monday through Fridays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday so you know everything that's going on with the team. Locked On has also launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows like Locked On NBA, which I'm on every Wednesday. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, let's look at the starters. As I said, this team is good, but I don't think they're reaching their full potential. Do you think they are? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's look at the starters. One of the stat sites I use is called cleaningtheglass.com. Costs like $50 a year. It's great if you like NBA statistics and diving into things here. It's one of the better statistics websites out there right now. One of the things they do is they'll look at lineups for you, and they can analyze the net rating for those. They can quantify a lot of the different stats and put them into like quartiles, so you can, percentiles, so you can kind of compare them to similar lineups around the league, and it gives you an idea of everything here. So that's what I think is important when it comes to all of this. So let's look at the starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. That is your starters. They have played the most possessions by far for the New Orleans Pelicans at 730. The team has played four less than 5,000 possessions total, 49.96. All right, their net rating is minus 2.2. So they're getting outscored by 2.2 points per 100 possessions when they're out there on the court together. That is not a good number. Here's how your starters are supposed to work for you. Right? Your starters are supposed to be your best starting five, the guys that work the best together, that goes out and builds you a lead if you're a good team. And then what you hope is when your subs come in, when you go through a rotation, right? You don't normally just run full lineup changes where it's 5 subs all out there on the court. They're kind of threaded in. It's called a rotation for a reason, with guys rotating in and out, and not just full on wholesale line changes like in hockey. Do they even still do that in hockey? I don't actually know. So you don't see that really, right? But you want your starters to build that lead, and then when subs start coming in, to just maintain it. If they cannot lose a lead and they have a kind of net zero, you're happy with that. So your starters not doing that and other lineups needing to be the ones that are doing the work for you is really concerning overall with this team. So let's look at the offense here. And so the Pelicans starters are scoring 118.5 points per possession. That is slightly better than what they're doing as a team, which is 117.8. So a little bit up there, 0.7 better. That kind of weirdly puts them still at 13th best in the league if you were to compare it to all teams. Now, if you were to look at other team starters, they would lag and probably be way behind all of this, right? Because we're comparing just this starting five number to a team's total number, when that's probably being dragged down by subs and other guys. And so keep that in mind, right? That this starting lineup is, you could argue, maybe one of the worst ones in the league in terms of net rating. Doesn't mean talent. It's kind of weird, right? You know, the defense is what's really struggled here. They give up 120.7 defensive rating. The team has a 113.8 defensive rating. That would put the Pelicans with the 25th worst. So you're getting a bottom 5 territory defensive rating. That's the Wizards. That's the Pistons and Charlotte, real bad teams here. That's not working. And that's why at the trade deadline, you saw them really looking to maybe move on from Jonas Valanciunas. They just feel that defensively they can't do what they want with him out there on the court, even though he's in some very good defensive lineups, to be perfectly honest with you. So they look at that and just go, okay, we've got to make a change. We've got to mix up the starting lineup. You know, maybe it's get rid of Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe it's just put Larry Nance Jr. in there and see what happens. And look, that lineup with Larry Nance Jr. with the other 4 starters instead of Jonas Valanciunas has a net rating of 4.6. So it's better than with JV. Significantly smaller sample size than that. But the offense is actually worse. It's the defense that's significantly better. Keep that in mind. So there isn't really a perfect solution here, right? You've got to score points. But with Larry out there, though, that group struggles. So what do, right? You're past the trade deadline. You can't move on from Jonas Valanciunas here, or at least not right now. We'll revisit that in the third segment here. So what do? You know, at this point, I don't know if the idea is start Nance over Valanciunas. They were experimenting with that in the second half of games, third quarters. That didn't really work. There's been talk of Herb Jones maybe getting bumped out of the starting lineup for Trey Murphy. But when you look at Herb Jones and his 3-point percentage right now and compare it to that of Trey Murphy, who's in a heck of a slump, it doesn't really work. And Trey's defense has been bad this season, where Herb Jones has just been freaking awesome, as he often is. Herb Jones is shooting 41.1% from three. After the last game now, Trey Murphy is down to 36.8%. Zion Williamson is shooting a higher 3-point percentage than Trey Murphy. Trey's doing it on almost 7 attempts per game. Herb, by the way, is only taking 3.6, so it's about double the volume there. That's worth keeping in mind too. But Herb, with the way he's shooting the three, you got to keep him in there. The answer to this question, this problem that they have, I think, and has been for a while, is not Jonas Valanciunas. I got a text message from someone the other day that was like, what would you do to fix the starting lineup? And I was like, I don't know. And this was maybe, I've gotten two. One was a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, okay, maybe you just start Trey instead of Herb. You got to try and do something to try and make your starters more effective. Then I got asked this question the other day, and instead of saying the same thing of, well, put Trey in for Herb, because I don't think that's the answer right now. I don't think really anyone would think that's the answer right now. It's run a different style of basketball, right? That, I think, has been part of the problem, is the offense, and we talked about this in yesterday's show if you're an everydayer, has just not looked cohesive, right? Like, they have not looked particularly great and in sync. They're getting it done with kind of like pure talent, right? Brandon Ingram is a scorer. Zion Williamson is a scorer. Jonas Valanciunas can be a bruiser down low, and CJ's having one of the best years of his career, in my opinion. But when you look at this, right, in terms of three-pointers, less than a third of all of their shot attempts with that starters is coming from three. It's 31.3%. That's lower than the Pelicans' average, which is already low and in the bottom quartile of the league. They're not taking enough threes. When you look at three-point rate as a team, which is basically percentage of field goal attempts from three-point range, as a team, it's 36.5%. That's 25th worst in the league. Like, that's not a good number here, right? You need that number to go up. You need that to space the court for Zion Williamson. So what you're forcing this team to do is not take the most efficient shots. They take a lot of shots from mid-range, and that's really not what you want. They also get a lot of shots at the rim, which is good. If you refined the shot selection, this team would look, I think, entirely different. One of the things we've talked about here is you hear the saying that, like, good defense leads to easy offense. You get a steal, you get out in transition, you run. That's really high efficient offense. But the reverse can be true. Right? If you make a shot, your defense gets back and gets set and can be better prepared to defend. And this team has been very good overall at doing that. When they get into the half court, this is a team that can defend pretty well. They force a lot of turnovers. They are 8th best at forcing turnovers in the league. Right? They get a lot of steals. They get a lot of blocks. They can get out and run and do all of those things. They're one of the top teams when it comes to deflections and things like that. So when you see that, you really want this team to kind of, I'm trying to find where's the play context for their half-court defense here. Clean glass is amazing, y'all. So if you make your shots, you can get back and get set. And I think that would significantly improve this team and what they're capable of doing, right? They don't have an amazing field goal percentage, so they're missing shots and teams are able to get out and run against them, and that's been, I think, a problem for them. So if you can get them into better situations, not allow as much transition offense against them, and that's happening against them here, where teams are gaining about 4 points per possession in transition against that starting group, when you can get them into the half court, they can be, I think, a little bit better and a little bit more effective and do some of the work you need. And that's just simply done by getting better offense, right? That's where you want to see more point Zion and running the ball through him, which they say and then they never do for a variety of reasons. We want to see Brandon Ingram shoot more threes. Took 6 the other night. That's good. Had that game where he blew it out of the building and was just draining threes and going crazy. And then he took 4 combined the next 2 games. And it was a struggle offensively for this team. They need to get better about making the offense more cohesive and figuring it out. I don't think the answer is simply just take a guy out of the starting lineup, put someone else in. I don't even think it's as simple as take Jonas Valanciunas out, put Jared Allen in, right? That's a Band-Aid. Yeah, that would make your defense better. I don't doubt that. But if your offense still isn't functioning like it should, yeah, Jared Allen helps, but he doesn't fix the problem, right? That's treating the symptom, not like the root cause of everything. And that's what you need to be doing. And that I do believe still is the offense. That's where I think this team has a lot of room to grow. This defense, no matter what, has been proven to be good. Get the offense going. That defense, I promise you, will get even better. But the starters have been clunky around that. I think run it through Zion, have Brandon Ingram be more of a spot-up 3-point shooter is going to open things up for this team, and that's thus going to make the defense better. And that's when I think you'll start to see this team reach some of their full potential. But that doesn't mean this team's done, even if they do all of that. So let's talk about how this relates to how the remainder of this season is going to relate to the offseason. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about eBay Motors. I actually really love this one. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Look, you want to make it look cooler? They can definitely do that for you. LED headlights, exhaust kits. You want to make it perform better? They've got brake kits, right? They have superchargers to make you go faster. So whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. And that's where I get all of my parts. I work on all of my vehicles. It's fun. I love doing it. I like getting my hands dirty. But getting a part that doesn't fit or being unsure if it will, that's like a disaster for you. That's why I go to eBay Motors, because with over 122 million parts for your number one vehicle, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. We are the number one Pelicans podcast, so subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. And let me know if you want to support the channel. Comment down below. We got a couple of days off, so I need your questions. What do you want to hear covered on the show this coming week? I've got us planned out through the end of the week here. We'll, of course, recap the game tomorrow. Friday, I want to look at the burning questions going forward for this team. What are the 3 biggest questions we have? And we're going to look at that in Friday's show that we want to see over the course of the remainder of the regular season. So we've talked about where this team is good. This team's good. I mean that. Like, they truly are. Not amazing, but good. The starters could get better. There's room to grow there. I don't think just swapping out a guy is going to completely fix things. So now what, right? Like, now what? Well, I think when you look at this team, this is your opportunity to really identify. You're in a unique opportunity here. You're in a unique opportunity where it seems almost like assuredly this team would make the playoffs. We would think, right? That's counting our chickens before they're hatched here, certainly. But right now, this team is 5th. They're, again, good. They're 6-4 in the past 10 games. They're likely going to bump that up to like 7-3 when you win this one over the Washington Wizards, hopefully. This team's been healthy. It would be tough for them to kind of fall out in terms of the standings and everything here. Like, they're in a very good spot, about a 4-game cushion over the play-in tournament. That's actually a lot of games, over 27 or so games of what's going to remain in the regular season here. So they're in a unique opportunity to be good, knowing that you can make some noise, do some damage, do a couple of things here, but likely aren't going to be a true title contender. But again, what is holding this team back? They feel it's the center position. Okay. I don't know if it is necessarily. I think there's other things holding them back. But when you get into the playoffs, in a playoff series, you'll certainly be able to really figure that out, right? Like they're in a unique position where they can go into the postseason and we can see if they're going to be doing a good job or not. It's really as simple as that. We're going to be able to kind of discover if this is a team that the center position is holding them back, or is it the cohesiveness between Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, or is it they need a point guard to run the offense more so? I don't think it's that. That's my personal opinion. You may disagree. Let me know in the comments down below. So I think by getting into the postseason, even if you get bounced out, you'll at least have the data to know the right move to make at that point. As I've said before, I don't think trading away right now Jonas Valanciunas would have made this team better. You get into a playoff series and realize no, you're gonna lose because of him. Cool, at least you know that then. I think that's likely to happen, but we don't know for sure. At least then you kind of get answers to some of these questions here, and then you make better and more informed decisions off of that in the offseason when there's far more moves available to be made. This team has ducked the luxury tax. They don't need to worry about that this year, which means if they want, big if, they can kind of push forward, right? Like if this team doesn't reach its full potential this year, right? If we end the season being like the offense still looked clunky and just like never figured it out, you have to make changes. You have to maybe make dramatic changes then. What those might be, who knows? But then at least you know you need to do something because you finally had a healthy season and you saw how this team did in the playoffs. Maybe Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson crush it in the postseason together. That then changes your off-season game plan and what you want to do. Maybe one of them struggles. That then changes what you want to do this off-season, right? Like those are the type of things that I think we're going to be looking at here with this team. So I'm glad they didn't really make any move at all at the trade deadline and instead are going forward and gathering data on this team to make the best, most informed decision that they possibly can. If that means they need to break up Zion and Brandon Ingram, at least we'll finally know instead of just having years of like what could have been. Now you got to the postseason, it didn't work. We can safely make that determination now. That's, I think, what we're going to get, a lot of clarity, if you will, at the end of this season. And I think when you look for years in the future, that's a really important thing here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below on YouTube or on Twitter at Nola Jake. And let me know the questions you want to hear answered on Locked On Pelicans in the coming week. All right, go recover from Mardi Gras Day. I think we all need that a little bit. Looking forward to the game tonight. Happy Valentine's Day if you're going to be with your loved ones and instead doing that, totally get it. My loved ones is all of you and Pelicans basketball. So I'll be there in the Smoothie King Center for the game tonight. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter. Be back with y'all tomorrow to recap the game.